Speaking of the TPP, Phyllis Schlafly just published a piece. Our friend Phyllis, right? She's been on the program a number of times. She and I agree on the Supreme Court, but not much else. On Friday, she writes, Congress disrupted President Obama's plan for a sweeping transfer of U.S. sovereignty to an unaccountable group of foreign busybodies. Hooray for the stalwart Americans who resisted the demands of Obama, the Republican leadership, and the big donor clique. The Trans-Pacific Partnership would turn over to globalists the power to issue regulations about U.S. trade, immigration, the environment, labor, and commerce. It's also called a living agreement, which means that the globalists can amend and change the text of the so-called agreement after it has gone into effect. She writes, the secrecy raptor on TPP is appallingly un-American. Whatever happened to Obama's promise of transparency? I agree with Phyllis Schlafly. And increasingly, we're seeing people, the base, the Republican base, is joining the Democratic base in saying this thing stinks. Gaius Publius wrote a great piece on Monday this week over at Down with Tyranny. And tip of the hat to him for putting a clip of our program on with my conversation with Bruce Fine, who's a Republican, who's the Undersecretary of the Treasury in the Reagan administration, sat right here and said, you know, TPP is unconstitutional. Article 3 of the Constitution says, and I quote, the judicial power shall extend to all cases in law and equity arising under this Constitution, under the laws of the United States, and treaties made or which shall be made under their authority. In other words, any dispute should be handled by our court system. It goes on to say, and between a state or the citizens thereof and foreign states, citizens, or subjects. And it goes on from there. You know, trials of all crimes, except in cases of impeachment, shall be by jury, and such trials shall be held in the state. You know, it goes on and on. Now, this ISDS, Investor-State Dispute Settlement, these are trials. The World Trade Organization just held a trial about whether or not it was legal for the United States to require country of origin labeling on meat. And in that trial, they ruled against us, against the United States of America. And so Congress last week, in order to avoid paying massive fines to these countries that were suing us through the World Trade Organization, Congress last week repealed our country of origin labeling, which so many of us had fought for years and years and years to get. So, I mean, there's some really nasty stuff here in this TPP, and it's really important, I think, to be calling your member of Congress, 202-225-3121. Call your member of Congress and say no to fast track, because that's what they're trying to push through now so that they can get to the TPP. No to fast track. Very simple.